So it seems like we can't even go a few days in this country without police officers shooting an unarmed African American man. Well, we have another report out of Wisconsin, this one being retweeted out by Julian Castro. A number of people have retweeted this one. I'll show you why I want to show you the Julian Castro tweet in just a second, but let's watch this clip. Guys, this is not easy to watch. If you want to, skip forward, this is about 15 seconds. Not easy to watch.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I don't know what to say. We constantly see this. We see this over and over and over again. Police officers just shooting people dead for no reason. Over the weekend, we saw the video emerge of police officers shooting a dog who was in the dog's own yard and just shot him because the dog was barking at the other dogs. The stuff that we see from police officers is atrocious. And the reason why I wanted to show you Julian Castro's tweet here specifically is because he's pointing out here how they were just shot at point blank, and that there were no other non-lethal methods considered, or he's saying were no other non-lethal methods considered. Now, apparently there was a taser applied to him previously, and that report came out after Julian Castro tweeted this out. Obviously, this is an evolving story. We don't know all the details. We don't know all of the information that, how this exactly happened. Reports are going out right now suggesting that he was actually breaking up a fight, that Jacob Blake was breaking up a fight, and that they were called for a domestic incident, and Jacob Blake was involved in splitting up the fight, keeping it separated, and then police officers tried to go after Jacob Blake, who, because he was there on the scene, and then they tased him, and he was like, I don't want to do anything. Like, this is ridiculous. Why are you detaining me? Why are you arresting me? And I think the most tragic thing that I've seen coming out of this is apparently his children. Jacob Blake, he's a father of 4, but apparently 3 of his children were inside of this car, traumatizing his children for life. So this is Ben Crump, a civil rights lawyer, tweeting this out, confirmed. Jacob Blake's 3 sons were in the car he was getting into when the police shot him tonight. They saw a cop shoot their father. They will be traumatized forever. We cannot let officers violate their duty to protect us. Our kids deserve better. And it's absolutely right. This is just facts at this point. Those children will be traumatized for life. And there's nothing we can do to take that back. Nothing that we can do to take back the fact that these police officers have traumatized those children for the rest of their lives. And, the thing that I think really just messes with me, really rubs me the wrong way is there are so many people right now, you go on Twitter, you go online, and I have no doubt in the comment section of this video right now, there are people trying to defend this police officer. They are saying, well, what if he was reaching for a gun? Well, what if? And then they turn around and they just immediately jump to the conclusion of defending the officer. Look, I'm not saying that every single police officer involved shooting is 100% the police officer's fault, but if your assumption is to jump to the conclusion to defend the police officer, quite frankly, you're the problem. And look, that's just the facts. Those are just the facts. If your gut instinct is to defend the police officer, you are the problem in the situation here. You are the problem, and you are the reason why we have so many problems with our policing, why we can't seem to come to any resolution to fix anything. Have you ever thought, here's the thing, guys. 3 months ago, George Floyd was murdered, and there was outrage, admittedly, from all sides of the political spectrum, right? Like, most people, even people who are usually like cop defenders and, sort of bootlickers out there, even those people said that the George Floyd murder was completely wrong. Many of those people even said that. But then why is it the case that nothing actually got done? Why is it the case that we didn't actually get anything done through Congress and through even the state houses in numerous states across the country? The things that did get passed were very minor and unserious. And most people will agree. Most people will agree that police reform is necessary. Now, we can debate about the specifics of how that police reform occurs. I said at the beginning of this video, I think that defunding the police and reallocating those resources to help people who are stuck in poverty, help alleviate situations where, there's social pressures and social stigmas involved in situations like, involving social workers, et cetera, et cetera. Like, these are areas which we can do to fix crime which doesn't involve the militarization of police. But, there's a lot of people out there who will say, well, we need to reform police. But then as soon as there's any kind of police shooting, they jump to the conclusion of defending the cops. My God, there is no real accountability, no real serious inquiry from a large section of this country. A large section of this country doesn't actually want to think about the fact that police officers are out there murdering people on the streets. They're murdering people on the streets. But they're the real patriots. They're the real revolutionaries. If they were around during the Revolutionary War, I'm sure they would have been, true patriots fighting for the American cause. I doubt it. I doubt it. Now, let's go through this a little bit more. Let's get some of the more details, some of the more facts going on here. Specifically, I want to show you all this information here from the governor. Actually, first, let me just quickly show you this. So this is reporting out from the neighbors, basically saying that Blake was trying to break up a fight. Like I was saying, a fight between two women, which was the domestic disturbance. And bystanders said that he was tased and then shot several times. So he was tased while trying to break up the fight because, I guess, there were cause. Now, obviously, again, that particular part, I will say, is sort of unconfirmed. We don't know all the details, but we have seen this now come out from multiple bystanders saying that Blake was the hero in the situation, that he was trying to break up the fight, and then police came and then jumped to the conclusion that he was somehow, the person who needed to be arrested, and then Blake was like, this is ridiculous. Why are you trying to handcuff me? And that's how this whole thing transpired. And again, he was shot in front of his children. So that's what we're seeing right now. Again, the details can change. The details can change, but so far, as of recording, that's what the details appear to be. But anyway, so I want to go back and show you all some of the tweets from the governor of Wisconsin to sort of give you guys a feel of the possibility of political action and how this thing can, possibly go forward. We saw almost immediately at the beginning of this that the Wisconsin Department of Justice will be taking over investigation. That's a good first step if we want to get justice for Jacob Blake and for, possibly transforming the police department in at least that area, even just minimally. So it's a good first step, but let's take a look and see what the governor has to say, see if there's anything interesting here. So, the opening tweet here basically saying that tonight Jacob Blake was shot in the back multiple times in broad daylight in Wisconsin, and that he's basically joining the family and hoping that he will not succumb to his injuries. Again, he's currently in intensive care after undergoing surgery. And he says here, while we do not have all the details yet, what we know for certain is that he is not the first black man or first person who has been shot or injured or mercilessly killed at the hands of individuals in law enforcement in our state or in our country. Now, personally, this wording here, like individuals in our law enforcement, just say policeman, because, we're talking about systemic problems here. We don't want to, in every way possible, we don't want to make it a debate about individual police officers. But, he's the governor, and this is definitely not the worst sort of string of tweets that I've seen from elected officials about either this incident or police shootings in general. But just, worth maybe saying, I don't know. He says, we stand with all of those who have and continue to demand justice, equity, and accountability for Black lives in our country, like those of George Floyd, like those of Breonna Taylor, like those of Tony Robinson, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there are so many different names, right? Like, because this is an incident, like, he's listing off a few of the names, but there are so many. We remember Mike Brown. Remember Trayvon Martin. These names go on and on and on, and there's so many of the names that we don't even remember. So many of the names that maybe didn't even get publicized. So many of the names where there wasn't a video, or there wasn't, it didn't end up the way that it happened. It didn't end up going viral, right? But there are so many names, even names that, again, we can't even say because we don't know all the names, and even people who really look into it probably don't even know all the names because it happens so often, so frequently, all the time. And he goes on to say here, and we stand against excessive use of force and immediate escalation when engaged with Black Wisconsinites. I think you say Wisconsinites. And then he goes on here, I have said all along that although we must offer our empathy, equally important is our action. In the coming days, we will demand just that of our elected officials in our state who have failed to recognize the racism in our state and our country for far too long. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, right? I don't know if that means that he's going to be putting pressure on members of state legislature to make sure that they pass some kind of serious bill to engage in police reform or some kind of serious police change. I hope that's what it means. Obviously, we haven't had the best track record when it comes to some of this stuff, but I really hope so. I really hope that we can see some kind of serious change, because there's one other point that I want to bring up when it comes to this clip here. The police officers had their guns pointed at him right there. They had their guns just pointed at him, even though he clearly wasn't a threat. He was just walking away, and police officers just had their guns ready to go. Ready to go because they were just like, oh, well, they just had their guns on him. They just had their guns on him. And that's the kind of thing, just that is escalation. Just that is escalation. Police officers should be showing up to a domestic violence dispute or some kind of domestic dispute trying to de-escalate, not escalate. They came and they tased the person who was breaking up the fight. This is a classic example of police officers bringing a gun to what was just a fist fight, to what was honestly probably didn't even need police officers. Because if he was breaking up the fight, okay, yeah, so maybe there was some black eyes, maybe, you reported afterwards. But was it really clear that the police officers even needed to show up in their current form with guns, with tasers? Clearly it seems to me that this is not an instance where police officers really even needed to show up, at least in the way that they did.